Fort Bragg shimmered under the late morning sun, dust and grit rising from the endless training grounds where soldiers drilled with the precision of machines. The scent of sweat, gunpowder, and hot asphalt clung to the air. Sergeant Luke Harwood strode across the range, the weight of his boots echoing against the cracked concrete like a metronome of authority. 12 years in the Army had taught him that discipline was everything, and anything out of place was dangerous. And there she was. Harwood froze mid-step, his gaze locking on a figure standing a few dozen meters away. A woman, calm, unblinking. She wore a plain, unadorned jacket, no insignia, no uniform, nothing to indicate she belonged on a military firing range. No ear protection, no helmet, nothing, just watching. Her posture was almost casual, but the intensity in her eyes screamed control. She wasn't a visitor. She wasn't lost. Something about her presence radiated authority, quiet, deadly authority. Harwood's instincts flared. He marched up to her, boots crunching over gravel. "Ma'am," he barked, voice carrying over the metallic clang of rifle fire, "this is a restricted range. You need to step back immediately. You can't be here." Her gaze lifted slowly, cool and unwavering, meeting his eyes. She didn't flinch, didn't glance away. "I'm exactly where I need to be, Sergeant," she said. Her voice was calm, almost annoyingly so, like she had rehearsed this moment 100 times in her mind. Harwood's jaw tightened. He had authority here. He ran this section of the base. "I'm not asking twice. Step back behind the line now." For a heartbeat there was silence, too quiet. The wind seemed to stop, dust hanging midair, soldiers' drills muffled like someone had muted the world. She exhaled, almost disappointed, and reached into her jacket. Harwood's hand twitched instinctively toward his sidearm, expecting maybe a weapon. Instead, she pulled out a single matte black ID card. Harwood froze. Not a visitor badge, not a contractor ID. This was something different. Something he had only ever heard whispers about in the officers' mess, rumors shared late at night around flickering monitors, clearance levels that didn't officially exist, programs no one outside the Pentagon was supposed to know about. He swallowed, his throat suddenly dry. "Who?" "You just ordered your superior officer off her own range," she said, cutting him off. Her voice had a metallic edge, controlled but undeniable. She didn't shout. She didn't need to. Her words carried authority that made Harwood's stomach twist. Harwood stared at the card in her hand. The very idea that he, Sergeant Luke Harwood, 12 years a soldier, responsible for life-and-death safety on this range, had just tried to eject his superior officer, felt like a punch to the gut. His mind raced. But before he could speak, a sound erupted across the north side of the base. An explosion, sudden, violent, sending a plume of black smoke spiraling into the Carolina sky. The ground vibrated beneath their boots. Trainees screamed, diving behind concrete barriers and trucks. Rifles went slack in some hands as fear surged faster than training. Harwood's instincts kicked in. He lunged forward, shoving the woman behind a sandbag bunker just as debris rained around them. The dust stung his eyes. The acrid smell of burning equipment filled his nostrils, and the low, continuous thrum of panic set his pulse racing. She didn't flinch, not once. "That wasn't scheduled," Harwood muttered, chest heaving. "Nothing about today was supposed to be scheduled," she replied, almost too casually, scanning the smoke with sharp, calculating eyes. Her calm sent a shiver down his spine. Harwood's mind was spinning. "Ma'am, who are you?" She held his gaze, her expression unreadable. Then, almost as if testing him, she said, "Call me Commander Hale. Your unit is now under my operational control." Harwood felt the world tilt. Operational control. This woman, wearing no uniform, carrying no rank insignia, with no introduction and no prior notice, was taking control of his unit. His voice caught in his throat. "Operational control. You can't just—" Hale interrupted him with a hand gesture sharp as a blade. "Sergeant, move. Now. We're behind schedule and there's no time to explain." Before Harwood could argue, his radio crackled violently. The speaker squealed, cutting in and out. "Sergeant Harwood, respond. North Munitions Depot just went up. This isn't." Hale snatched the radio from him with a speed that made him flinch. She spoke into it, her tone clipped and professional. "Patch me into command now." The line went silent. Then, impossibly, the radio switched channels on its own, connecting directly to higher-level officers. Harwood's pulse spiked. Whoever she was, she had access, direct access, to channels he couldn't even touch. "Confirm the breach." Hale's voice was quiet, deadly precise. "And confirm if the package is still on site." Harwood frowned. "Package?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, her eyes flicked to the smoke rising from the depot. Bootprints, scorched debris, a half-collapsed wall. Something moved, subtle, almost imperceptible. "Someone came here," she muttered. "Someone who wasn't supposed to." Harwood's pulse raced. "And you're saying what? This was sabotage?" Hale turned to him slowly, her gaze unwavering. "Not exactly, but if they get out with what they came for, Sergeant, everything changes." Harwood wanted to ask what she meant, wanted to understand. But before he could, a second, sharper explosion echoed, closer this time, shaking the very earth under his boots. Hale didn't flinch. She exhaled, almost as if she'd been waiting for this. Her eyes glimmered with a mixture of calm and calculation, and her lips parted. "Move, now." Harwood swallowed. He knew in that instant this wasn't just an accident, a training mishap, or even a simple breach. Whatever Commander Hale was here for, it was bigger than anything he had trained for. And as he took a step forward to follow her, the wind shifted. He caught a glimpse of movement, shadowy, fast, heading away from the smoke. Hale's hand shot out, gripping his arm. Her eyes locked on the shadow, and for the first time Harwood saw something in them. Urgency. "They're not running from the blast," she whispered, almost to herself. "They're running into the base," Harwood said, disbelief tightening his voice. Hale didn't respond. She only pulled him along, toward the unknown danger lurking in the tree line. And in that moment, Harwood realized something that made his blood run cold. The woman he had tried to order off the range, the woman he had assumed was an intruder, was far more dangerous, far more important than he could have ever imagined. The sound of another explosion echoed. And then Hale spoke, low and sharp. "Sergeant, this is only the beginning." Harwood's heart pounded. Dust swirled around them, smoke rose, alarms screamed, and he understood with a sinking certainty that nothing on this base would ever be the same again. The shockwave hit with a brutal, almost surreal force. Dust and debris whipped across Fort Bragg's training grounds, rattling windows and sending soldiers scrambling for cover. A few rifles clattered to the concrete, and trainees dropped behind sandbags, eyes wide with fear. The distant sound of alarms cut through the chaos, piercing the tension like knives. Harwood's heart raced as he tried to process what had just happened. This wasn't just a routine training mishap, it was something far worse. He had instinctively shielded Commander Hale behind a bunker, and as he glanced at her, he realized she wasn't panicking. Not even slightly. Her calm was disarming, almost impossible. Her gaze had shifted to the rising plume of black smoke, sharp and calculating. Every detail mattered to her, the direction of the debris, the wind, even the faint smell of scorched metal. "That wasn't scheduled," Harwood muttered half to himself. "Nothing about today was supposed to be scheduled," she replied, voice smooth as steel. She didn't glance at him, eyes fixed on the destruction. "And yet here we are." Harwood swallowed hard. What are you really?" he managed, his voice barely above the hiss of the alarms. Hale turned her head slowly toward him, gaze locking on his. "Call me Commander Hale. Your unit is under my operational control until I say otherwise." He blinked. Operational control. She had no uniform, no insignia, no explanation. Just that unshakable calm that made him question everything he knew about military hierarchy. Before he could even respond, The radio on his hip crackled violently. Harwood fumbled to grab it, heart hammering. "Sergeant Harwood, respond. North Munitions Depot just went up. This is an accident." Hale snatched the radio from his hands with a speed that made him flinch. Her fingers moved like lightning over the controls. "Patch me into command," she ordered. The radio line went dead. Then, impossibly, it switched channels automatically, connecting directly to a high-level network Harwood hadn't been cleared for. His stomach twisted. Whoever this woman was, she wasn't just another officer. She had access to channels that could override his entire chain of command. "Confirm the breach," she said calmly, "and confirm if the package is still on site." Harwood blinked. "Package? What package?" Hale's eyes flicked toward the plume of smoke. She crouched slightly, scanning the area with the intensity of someone who had anticipated this moment. "A prototype, classified, not supposed to exist outside the vault. If it leaves this depot, everything changes." Harwood felt the world tilt. "Everything changes. Ma'am, we're talking about a training range explosion, not some warhead launch." She didn't respond. Her attention shifted again, this time toward the tree line bordering the depot. Movement, subtle, shadows slipping between the pines, too fast to be a soldier responding to the blast. "They're not running from the explosion," Hale whispered, almost to herself. "They're moving toward something else." Harwood followed her gaze, trying to focus, but the dust and smoke blurred vision and sound. His gut tightened. "Toward what?" Hale's voice was ice. "Toward us." Before he could respond, another explosion cracked across the horizon, closer this time. The ground trembled, throwing them both to the dirt. Harwood's ears rang. He could barely hear his own thoughts over the sudden roar. Sand and gravel stung his face and smoke burned his eyes. Trainees screamed in terror, scrambling for whatever cover they could find. Hale didn't flinch. She was already moving, pulling Harwood to his feet. "We need to get to the depot. Now," she said, voice sharp and commanding. Harwood hesitated. "Ma'am, wait, we need backup. There's smoke. There's fire, soldiers." Hale shot him a look that made him stop mid-sentence. Her eyes, cold and unyielding, pierced him with a clarity that froze his thoughts. "Sergeant, do you want that prototype to fall into the wrong hands? Move." He nodded, swallowing hard, adrenaline pumping through every vein. They sprinted toward the North Depot, dodging vehicles and soldiers running in the opposite direction. The plume of smoke rose like a black dagger against the sky, and acrid heat washed over them. Harwood's lungs burned, every muscle screaming, but he matched her pace. She moved with the precision of someone trained for combat but also for strategy, scanning every angle, anticipating threats he couldn't see. As they approached the depot, the devastation became undeniable. A portion of the wall had collapsed entirely, leaving a jagged scar of concrete and steel. Fire licked the edges, and the acrid smell of gunpowder and burnt machinery stung the lungs. MPs and soldiers were already securing the area, weapons drawn, shouting orders, and firing commands at anyone moving too close. One MP stepped in front of Hale, hands raised. "Ma'am, you can't." Hale flashed her badge again, the matte black ID card glinting in the sunlight. The MP froze, then paled and saluted. He stepped aside without a word. Harwood's jaw dropped. This isn't just a drill," he muttered. Hale crouched near the blown-out secondary door, scanning scorch marks and footprints with laser-sharp focus. "This wasn't sabotage," she said, voice low. "This was deliberate, and someone tried very hard to cover it up." Harwood's brow furrowed. "Cover up for what? What was in here?" She didn't answer directly. Instead, she swept her hand across the ground, revealing a series of deep-booted tracks, not military issue. Too narrow, too new. "Someone came for something," Hale muttered. "Something they weren't supposed to take." Harwood swallowed. "A package." "Exactly," she said. "But not just a package. This is intelligence off the books. Technology not supposed to exist. If it leaves this depot, the consequences are catastrophic." Harwood's stomach churned. Catastrophic how? Hale didn't answer. Instead, her eyes narrowed, scanning the surrounding tree line. And we have 5 suspects, she said. Only 5. One of them is already inside this perimeter, and one of them will do whatever it takes to escape with it. Harwood's pulse quickened. And you want me to, what, chase them, arrest them? No, Hale said quietly, almost as if speaking to herself. I need to know which one betrayed us, and which direction they're moving. Harwood turned toward the tree line and froze. Movement, a shadow slipping between the trees, not moving away from the base, moving toward it. Hale's voice cut through the tension, low and urgent. Sergeant, do you see that? Harwood nodded, heart hammering in his chest. Yes. They're not escaping, she said. Harwood's mind raced. Not escaping, then what? Hale's lips pressed into a thin line. They're hunting. A chill ran down his spine. Hunting, not stealing, not running, hunting. Before he could speak again, a figure stepped fully into the clearing. Hood up, face obscured. Harwood's blood ran cold when he recognized the object in the figure's hand, a small black detonator, military grade, silent, deadly. Harwood's hand twitched toward his sidearm, but Hale's sharp grip on his wrist froze him. Don't move, she whispered. Not yet, we need to see who's controlling this game. The figure called out, voice muffled but menacing. You shouldn't have come alone, Commander. Harwood's stomach twisted. She knew him. Hale's expression didn't change, only her eyes hardened. Unfortunately, she said. The figure continued. Walk away, Sergeant. She didn't tell you what she's really doing on this base. Harwood's jaw clenched. Commander, tell me. Hale's eyes flickered briefly, almost with regret. Then she said nothing. The figure laughed, dark and cruel. Tell him, Commander. Tell him what happens to anyone who stands in the way of the truth. Harwood's pulse raced. Hale didn't respond, not yet. The figure raised the detonator, thumb hovering over the switch. Step closer, he warned. One more step and the consequences are yours. Hale stepped forward anyway. Her voice, calm and unshakable, carried across the clearing. You're wrong, you won't succeed. The man's thumb pressed down. Harwood's world narrowed to the small, black detonator, and the terrifying certainty that whatever happened next, there was no going back. And then the detonator beeped. The beeping from the detonator echoed across the dust-choked clearing, a low, menacing pulse that made every hair on Harwood's arm stand on end. The figure in the hooded jacket didn't flinch. Instead, he leveled the device at them like a predator marking prey. Harwood's instincts screamed to move, to tackle, to fire, but Hale's hand gripped his arm with unyielding authority. Not yet, she whispered, voice cutting through the din of chaos. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Harwood's mind raced. Who was this figure, and why did Hale, the woman he had assumed was an intruder, move with such unshakable confidence in the face of a potential detonation? She wasn't just in control, she owned this scene. The man in the hood smirked beneath the shadow of his hood. I wouldn't come alone either, he said, voice rough, taunting. Especially when you're chasing something you shouldn't know exists. Hale's jaw tightened. Her gaze flicked toward the tree line, scanning every shadow, every flicker of movement. The prototype isn't just a weapon, she muttered. It's intelligence, untraceable, undetectable, and in the wrong hands it becomes unstoppable. Harwood swallowed hard. So this thing, it's what they're after. She didn't answer. Her eyes were locked on the figure in front of them. They've been planning this for months, years maybe. Someone wanted it gone, or someone wanted to use it. The man raised the detonator slightly, the small device glinting in the morning sun. Step closer, Commander, he taunted. One wrong move and everything you fought for disappears. Hale didn't flinch. She stepped forward deliberately, her boots kicking up dust. You're bluffing, she said, voice calm but sharp. You're not authorized to carry that and you know it. The figure laughed, low and dangerous. Bluff? No, Commander, I have every authorization I need. Harwood's stomach twisted. Authorization. What the hell did that mean? This was no longer a simple munitions depot incident. It was something bigger, deeper, and infinitely more dangerous. Suddenly, movement in the tree line caught Harwood's eye. Another shadow, faster, lighter. The man in the hood didn't see it or pretended not to. Hale's gaze sharpened. Not all of them came here for the same reason, she muttered. Some came to steal, others to cover their tracks. Harwood's heart pounded. Tracks? What tracks? She exhaled sharply. Tracks that lead back to people in this very base, people you think you trust, people in positions you'd never suspect. The man in the hood suddenly dropped to one knee, holding the detonator closer to the ground. Harwood squinted, trying to make sense of the device. It didn't have the familiar wiring or visible explosives. Instead, it was a sleek black slab of metal, almost minimalist in design. No wires, no timer, just a small blinking light. Hale's lips pressed into a thin line. It's not explosives, she muttered. It's a data trigger. Harwood frowned. Data trigger. Yes, Hale said, voice low and dangerous. If activated, it wipes the prototype's digital signature. All records, all tracking, gone, forever. She glanced at Harwood. And it's been set to activate if anyone interferes or dies. Harwood's pulse spiked. You mean if we touch him? She nodded grimly. If we make the wrong move, the intelligence disappears before we can even recover it. And if that happens, the people who authorized this will vanish in the shadows too, leaving chaos behind. The hooded man straightened slowly. You're slow, Commander. Time isn't on your side. Hale's eyes narrowed. She stepped closer, tone firm. You underestimate me, and you will regret it. The man's smirk faltered just for a heartbeat, and then he tilted his head, almost curious. Interesting, he said. So the famous Commander Hale finally shows some fire. Harwood's mind reeled. Commander Hale famous. Who is she really? Before he could speak, another sound split the air. The sharp crack of a rifle shot from somewhere in the tree line. The hooded man stumbled, clutching the detonator. His eyes widened. Hale reacted instantly, grabbing him by the collar and pulling him backward. Harwood's instincts kicked in. He lunged forward, but Hale's hand slammed onto his chest. Wait, she hissed. Another figure emerged from the shadows. Faster, lighter, moving like a ghost through the trees. The second figure fired again, and the man with the detonator hit the ground. Harwood froze. The detonator skidded across the dirt, blinking ominously. His stomach dropped. If it triggered now. Hale didn't panic. She was already on the man, flipping him over, scanning his jacket. It's a deadman's protocol, she muttered, voice taut. If his vitals stop, the data wipe goes global. Harwood's chest tightened. Global, you mean the entire intelligence network. Hale's eyes were sharp, unwavering. Everything connected to this prototype, every operation, every mission, all gone. Harwood swallowed. The weight of the reality pressed down on him. Then what do we do? Hale's hands were already moving, checking the man's pockets, flipping the device, trying to override the system. We stabilize him, fast, and we find the second shooter. They're the key to stopping the chain. Harwood scanned the tree line. The second figure had vanished, slipping between the trees with impossible speed. He's gone, Harwood muttered. Not for long, Hale said, voice steady. And if we don't stop him, the first man's death triggers the global wipe. Every secret, every file erased. Forever. Harwood's legs felt like lead. The reality was unbearable. One misstep, one wrong move, and everything collapses. Hale's fingers tightened on the Deadman device, scanning the circuitry with laser focus. The package wasn't just intelligence, she said. It's evidence. Evidence of operations that should never have been authorized, and someone powerful wants it gone. Harwood's head spun. So, it's not just about stopping an explosion. It's about exposing people at the top. Hale didn't answer. Instead, she stood abruptly, eyes flicking toward the tree line again. Sergeant, she said, voice low and dangerous, We move now. The second shooter has the counter key. We need it before the first man dies completely. Otherwise, everything is gone. Harwood's breath caught. Counter key. The device has two safeguards, Hale explained, voice urgent. The first is the man on the ground, his pulse. The second is the key held by the shooter in the tree line. Without both, we can't deactivate it. Harwood felt his knees weaken. And if we fail? Hale's eyes hardened. If we fail, Sergeant, the entire national intelligence grid collapses, nothing left, and no one alive will know what happened. The wind shifted suddenly, a twig snapped. Harwood spun toward the sound. Shadow moved among the pines. Too slow, Hale muttered. He's moving toward us, counterkey in hand. Harwood's heart raced. He adjusted his stance, ready for whatever came next. The tree line shivered with movement, the sun glinting off something metallic in the distance. Hale's eyes narrowed. Sergeant, follow my lead. One wrong step and we lose everything. The shadow in the trees stepped into the clearing. Harwood's blood ran cold. The second figure wasn't running from them. It was running toward them, and in its hand gleamed the tiny, deadly object that could erase the work of countless lives in an instant. Hale exhaled, fists clenched. Get ready, Sergeant, because the moment we make contact, everything changes. The shadow stopped at the edge of the clearing, and then, slowly, deliberately, it raised the counter key high. Harwood's world narrowed to the small, blinking device. Sweat stung his eyes. Dust choked his throat. The seconds felt infinite. Hale whispered, voice like steel, "This is it. One move wrong, Sergeant, and it's all over." And then the counterkey's owner smiled, and the clearing erupted with motion, shadows, and the first real fight for the prototype. The clearing was a chaos of shadows, dust, and adrenaline. The second figure, lighter and faster than Harwood had imagined, darted through the trees, counterkey in hand, glinting ominously in the early morning light. Harwood's pulse thundered in his ears. Every muscle in his body screamed to charge, to tackle, to stop it, yet Hale's hand was like iron on his shoulder. "Not yet," she whispered, her voice a taut threat of authority. "One wrong move and the entire system triggers. Don't forget that." Harwood's jaw tightened. One wrong move. The words hammered in his mind like bullets. The first man, the one lying crumpled on the ground, was hooked into a deadman's protocol. If he died completely, every trace of the prototype, every operation tied to it would vanish. Forever. Hale's eyes never left the second figure. "He's fast but predictable," she muttered. "Deadly but predictable." The shadow broke from the tree line, sprinting straight toward the depot. Harwood instinctively dove, ready to intercept, but Hale's voice stopped him cold. "Wait." The figure skidded to a halt near the edge of the clearing, counterkey raised, eyes glinting behind the hood. Harwood could feel Hale's tension radiate like a physical force. She crouched slightly, hands ready. "The detonator isn't a weapon," she said. "It doesn't trigger explosives, it wipes data, intelligence, every trace of the prototype. Gone. And if he dies, it triggers automatically." Harwood's stomach dropped. "So we can't touch him." Hale shook her head. "Not until we neutralize the second key. And even then, one wrong move, Sergeant, one wrong move and it's all gone." The shadowed figure laughed, a low, cold sound. "Too late, Commander. You should have stayed home. You should have stayed out of this." Harwood's fists clenched. "Commander, we can't let him leave with that." Hale's eyes flicked to him, calm but deadly. "Do you want to risk every operation you've ever been part of? Because one push, one grab, and everything disappears." The figure's hand twitched. Harwood realized the counterkey wasn't just a key, it was an entire protocol in his palm, a weapon against time itself. Suddenly the first man on the ground groaned. A faint pulse registered. Harwood exhaled, he was still alive, but Hale's eyes widened. "He's stabilizing, but barely. One more hit and we lose him." The second figure pressed forward, moving closer to the prototype site. Harwood's mind raced. How could they stop him? How could they risk touching him when Hale had said that any wrong move would trigger the wipe? Hale didn't wait for him to respond. She moved like lightning, feet kicking up dust as she closed the distance between them. Harwood followed, lungs burning, mind spinning with fear and adrenaline. The second figure froze at the sound of a vehicle approaching. Military trucks barreled into the clearing, armored and threatening, lights blazing. Federal agents poured out, weapons raised. Hale's eyes flicked to them, unreadable. They weren't expecting backup, she muttered, and neither was he. The shadowed figure's smirk faltered. He pivoted, trying to flee back into the tree line. Hale lunged, closing the distance in a heartbeat, grabbing his arm. They struggled, dust flying. Harwood dove in, pinning the figure to the ground. The counterkey skidded across the dirt, blinking. Harwood froze, realizing the gravity of the situation. One wrong touch, the device would trigger. Hale's hand shot out, pressing against the counterkey. Her fingers danced across the surface, scanning, analyzing. "It's not just the key," she muttered. "He set a failsafe. If the biometric signal dies, it triggers anyway." Harwood's chest tightened. "Failsafe, you mean?" "Yes," Hale interrupted, voice cold as steel. "Even if he's unconscious, even if we neutralize him, the system still watches, still waits. One heartbeat, one pulse out of sync, and everything disappears." The man struggled beneath them, eyes wild. "You can't stop it, you can't." Hale pressed harder, voice low and controlled. "Yes, we can, but we have to act together. Sergeant, get ready." Harwood swallowed, muscles coiled. He glanced at the man on the ground, the first operative. He was barely alive, a thin sheen of sweat on his pale face, pulse weak. Hale's eyes never left the second figure. Every second mattered. The struggle intensified. Dust swirled around them, sunlight flashing off the detonator, illuminating its black, sleek surface. The second figure's thumb hovered over the trigger. Harwood's heart raced. One press, one instant, and they could lose everything. Suddenly, Hale froze, eyes narrowing. She reached inside the man's jacket, pulling out a small module the size of a coin. "A biomimetic pulse chip," she whispered. "He's not alive, this is fake. It simulates vital signs, gives him a window to escape with the prototype intact." Harwood's mind went blank. "He's been faking it." Hale nodded grimly. "And we didn't know. But if I can override it, we can stabilize him and take the counterkey before the failsafe triggers." The second figure twisted beneath them, trying to snatch back the counterkey. Harwood pivoted, using his weight to pin him. Hale's fingers worked furiously on the device, scanning, probing. Sparks of tension flew between them. Every second closer to failure made the stakes unbearable. Then the second figure gasped. "No, you don't understand, you don't." Hale cut him off. "I understand perfectly. You thought you could erase everything, but you underestimated me." The figure's eyes widened. You can't." A sudden, mechanical beep cut through the clearing. Red lights flashed across the detonator's surface. Hale's jaw clenched. "Counterkey only. We have less than 30 seconds." Harwood lunged forward instinctively. "Commander, we need." "Do not touch it," Hale snapped. "Sergeant, follow my lead." The second figure twisted violently, and Harwood almost lost his grip. Hale didn't flinch. With precision, she pressed the biomimetic chip against the detonator's biometric port. Sparks of light flickered, red turning to green. The device beeped rapidly, time stretched, heartbeats thundered. Harwood felt his chest tighten. The first operative groaned weakly. The biomimetic chip was stabilizing him. The second figure struggled, desperate, eyes darting. You don't know what you're doing." Hale didn't respond. Her hands were steady, unshakable, guiding the counterkey into place. The blinking red light on the device slowed, then froze. Harwood exhaled, relief flooding him, but it was short-lived. From the tree line came the faint rustle of movement. Another figure, another threat. Hale's gaze snapped toward the trees, sharp and commanding. "Sergeant, cover me now." Harwood turned just in time to see a shadow moving fast, a third operative emerging from the tree line. Armed, focused, dangerous. The second figure, realizing escape was impossible, shouted something unintelligible, then lunged toward the tree line himself. Hale grabbed the counter key and yanked it free. The device in the first operative's jacket blinked green, stabilized. Harwood staggered back, sweat stinging his eyes, lungs burning. The clearing was chaotic. Dust, debris, adrenaline, shadows dancing in the sunlight. And yet Hale stood, unwavering, counter key in hand, scanning the tree line for the new threat. Harwood's heart pounded. "Commander, what now?" Hale didn't answer immediately. She only exhaled, a long, measured breath. Then she said, voice low and sharp, "We neutralize the new threat, and then we find out who sent them. Because someone wanted that prototype erased, and it wasn't an accident." Harwood's stomach twisted. "So this isn't over." Hale shook her head. "It's just begun." The new figure stepped from the tree line, and the sunlight caught the glint of a weapon aimed directly at them. Harwood's chest tightened. Hale's jaw set, eyes narrowing, the counter key gripped like a lifeline. And then she whispered, "Sergeant, brace yourself. This is where it gets real." The clearing erupted into motion, bullets flashing, dust spiraling, and Harwood realized with a sinking certainty that nothing on this base, or in his life, would ever be the same again. The clearing had become a war zone. Dust swirled in chaotic clouds, sunlight slicing through the haze, glinting off metal and gunfire. Hale's eyes were laser-focused on the tree-line, counter key clutched like a lifeline in her hands. Harwood's pulse raced in tandem, every fiber of his being screaming to act. But every instinct reminded him of Hale's warning. One wrong move, one misstep, and the entire prototype, the intelligence, would vanish. From the shadows emerged the third operative. Unlike the others, this one moved with calculated precision. Weapon aimed, body low, eyes scanning for vulnerabilities. Hale didn't flinch. She pivoted, sliding the counter key into her tactical vest, fingers grazing the device as if it were an extension of her own body. "Sergeant," she said quietly, voice like steel, "stay close. Every second counts." Harwood nodded, muscles tensed. His heart pounded in his ears. The first operative, the one they had just stabilized, lay crumpled a few feet away, barely conscious. His pulse was weak, a faint rhythm against the ticking of time. Hale's attention was split between him, the counter key, and the new threat emerging from the tree line. The third operative fired. The first bullet zinged past Harwood's shoulder, tearing a strip of bark from a nearby tree. Instinctively, he dove for cover behind the sandbags, eyes wide with terror. Around them, the clearing had transformed into a tableau of chaos. Smoke rising, dust spiraling, soldiers and MPs diving for safety, and the hum of gunfire echoing across the base. Hale reacted instantly. She pivoted, rolling low, sliding behind the first operative, and returned fire with calculated precision. Every shot was deliberate, aimed to neutralize, not kill. Harwood watched, awestruck and terrified. She wasn't just commanding the fight, she was orchestrating it like a conductor, every movement precise, every decision critical. "Sergeant," she barked, "we need that third operative down before he gets to the prototype. Move." Harwood scrambled from cover, heart in his throat. He aimed, fired, missed. The operative ducked behind a fallen metal crate, moving faster than he expected. Hale fired again, each shot precise, forcing the operative to retreat. "Keep him pinned," Hale shouted. "I'm going for the first operative." Harwood glanced at the man lying crumpled on the ground. His chest rose and fell slowly, barely, but the device in his jacket still blinked green. If he died, everything would be erased. The weight of that knowledge pressed down on Harwood's chest. One wrong move and countless operations, covert missions, and intelligence would vanish. Hale reached the first operative, pressing her hand against the device in his jacket. Her fingers danced across the controls, overriding the failsafe just enough to stabilize the link. "He's alive," she muttered, exhaling sharply. but we don't have long. The third operative lunged again, aiming directly for Hale. Harwood reacted instantly, firing, but the operative twisted out of the way with inhuman agility. Hale moved in tandem, counterkey clutched tightly, sliding low and forward. Her movements were fluid, precise, calculated, but Harwood couldn't shake the fear. One mistake and the Deadman's protocol would trigger, erasing everything in a flash. The operative hurled himself toward Hale, and Harwood dove to intercept, slamming his shoulder into the man. They tumbled to the dirt, dust, and debris flying. The operative struggled fiercely, but Hale was already at his side, pressing the counter key against the operative's vest. Sparks of digital light flickered across the device. "Sergeant, hold him steady," Hale shouted. Harwood gritted his teeth, using all his strength to pin the operative. The man thrashed violently, and Hale's hands moved with lightning speed, overriding the counter key. Her eyes never left the blinking lights, scanning, analyzing, calculating. Seconds stretched into eternity. Every heartbeat, every breath, every flicker of the counter key could mean the difference between survival and total annihilation of the prototype. Suddenly, the operative froze, eyes wide. Hale's fingers pressed the final sequence and the device blinked green, stabilized. The counter key was secure. Harwood exhaled, chest heaving. The first operative groaned faintly. The second operative was neutralized, and the prototype's intelligence remained intact for now. But Hale didn't relax. Her eyes flicked to the tree line, sharp and calculating. "This isn't over," she muttered. "There's someone higher up, someone who sent them." Harwood's legs trembled. "So all this, it's just the beginning." Hale didn't answer immediately. She scanned the clearing, taking in the debris, the dust, the injured soldiers, the blinking devices. Then she said, voice low and deliberate, "They underestimated me. They thought they could erase the evidence, but we have it, and now they're going to come for it themselves." Harwood's stomach tightened. "You mean someone's coming?" Hale's gaze hardened. "Yes, and they'll be prepared. They'll know everything that's happened here today." A sudden rustle in the tree line made Harwood spin. Another figure emerged, taller, broader, moving with deliberate confidence. This wasn't a trainee. This wasn't an operative sent for the prototype. This was someone different. Hale's jaw clenched. "The mastermind," she whispered, finally showing their hand. The figure stepped into the clearing, face obscured, hands empty, but the aura of authority radiated like heat. Hale's eyes never left them. Harwood felt a chill run down his spine. "So, that's it. That's the one behind all of this." Hale nodded grimly. "Yes, and they're about to test us, all of us." The figure spoke, voice calm, measured, carrying an edge of menace. "Commander Hale, Sergeant Harwood, you've done well for now, but the prototype is mine, and I'll do whatever it takes to get it." Harwood's blood ran cold. It's not yours," he shouted. The figure smiled faintly. "Not yet, but it will be, unless you're willing to risk everything." Hale's eyes narrowed. "We already risked everything, and we're not letting it go, not today, not ever." The figure tilted their head, assessing, calculating. "Bold, foolish, but bold. Let's see if your courage matches your skill." A sudden explosion ripped through the tree line behind the figure, throwing dirt and debris across the clearing. Soldiers screamed, diving for cover. The figure didn't flinch. Hale's jaw tightened. "Sergeant," she hissed, voice taut, "we need to move. Now, that explosion, it's just the start. The next wave is coming." Harwood swallowed hard, heart hammering. The adrenaline was overwhelming, but he nodded, following Hale as she moved with preternatural speed and precision toward the prototype site. The first operative stirred faintly, murmuring incoherently. Hale glanced back, a flicker of concern crossing her face. "We can't leave him," she said, "but we don't have time. Someone's coming, someone far worse than the last three." Harwood's chest tightened. "Worse." Hale's eyes were ice. "Yes. And when they arrive, Sergeant, everything you thought you knew about this base, this mission, will change. Forever." The clearing shook again, louder this time. Harwood stumbled, dust in his eyes as Hale grabbed his arm. Together, they sprinted toward cover, toward the prototype, toward whatever came next. And from the tree line, shadows moved faster, armed, calculated, deadly. Hale glanced at Harwood, eyes blazing. "Sergeant, brace yourself. The real game begins now." And just like that, the calm of the morning shattered. Bullets screamed, dust spiraled, and Harwood realized that the line between duty and survival had just disappeared. The clearing was a chaotic blur of dust, gunfire, and adrenaline. Hale moved with deadly precision, the counter key secure in her tactical vest, dragging Harwood behind her as the shadows in the tree line coalesced into something far more sinister than any operative they had faced so far. The air smelled of scorched metal and sweat. The acrid tang of gunpowder stung their lungs. Harwood's heart pounded. Every instinct screamed that the next steps were critical, and yet the weight of the situation, the knowledge that one wrong move could erase the entire prototype, was almost paralyzing. Hale's eyes never left the tree line, scanning, calculating, predicting. "They're here," she muttered. Her voice was low, controlled, but the urgency was unmistakable. "And this is the mastermind." Harwood squinted, straining to make out the figure stepping into the clearing. Unlike the others, this person didn't rush, didn't fire. Their movement was deliberate, measured, almost regal in its precision. A tall figure clad in a custom tactical uniform, face partially obscured by a visor. Every gesture, every step radiated authority. The figure stopped in the center of the clearing, hands relaxed at their sides. The silence was almost deafening, broken only by distant echoes of alarms and the occasional crack of gunfire from scattered MPs. "Hale," the figure said, voice calm, authoritative, chilling in its composure. "So we meet at last." Hale's jaw tightened. "You've caused enough chaos. Step aside or this ends badly for you." The figure chuckled softly, the sound low and dangerous. "Bad? For me? My dear commander, you misunderstand. This is exactly what I intended. You've handled the distractions admirably, but the true test begins now." Harwood felt a chill run down his spine. The figure's words, the tone, it wasn't just a threat. It was a promise of something calculated, precise, unstoppable. Hale's eyes narrowed. "Who are you? Who authorized this?" The figure lifted a gloved hand, letting the sunlight glint off the visor. "I authorized nothing. I planned everything. And now, thanks to you, the final phase is within reach." Harwood's stomach churned. "Final phase?" The figure nodded. "Yes, that prototype intelligence technology lives, it's all in play. You've just been moving the pieces, and now the game begins." Hale's hands tightened around the counter key. "You think I'll let you erase it? You think I'll let you succeed?" The mastermind tilted their head, surveying the clearing with cold, calculating eyes. "Commander Hale, do you truly believe you're the one in control? You've been reacting, managing crises, chasing shadows. I am the architect, and you've just stumbled into my design." Harwood's fists clenched. "So this is all a setup?" The figure's smile was faint, cruel. "Everything is a setup, Sergeant, and now the clock starts." Hale's eyes darted to the first operative, still weak but alive, and the second operative, neutralized but potentially still dangerous. Then to the prototype site, blinking ominously. Her jaw clenched. "Sergeant," she said, voice taut, "we have minutes, maybe less. The prototype is rigged. One misstep and it's all gone." Harwood swallowed hard. "Then what do we do?" Hale's gaze snapped back to the mastermind. "We fight smart. We stabilize the prototype, neutralize the mastermind, and get out, alive." The figure laughed, low and chilling. "Alive? You overestimate your odds, Commander, and yet I admire your courage." From the tree line, a subtle movement caught Harwood's eye. Another operative, or was it a trap? The mastermind's voice cut through the air, calm, deliberate. "You see, Sergeant, I didn't just send them to test your abilities. I sent them to learn your weaknesses, and now I know them all." Harwood's pulse skyrocketed. "Hale, what do we do?" Hale exhaled sharply. "We create a distraction. You take the prototype. I'll handle them." Before Harwood could respond, the mastermind's visor reflected the sunlight, and he caught a faint flicker of something moving beneath it, a subtle indicator, almost imperceptible, of a weapon. "Commander," the mastermind said, voice low and deliberate, "every move you make I anticipate, every step calculated, every hesitation exploited." Hale's eyes hardened. "Then let's see whose calculation is stronger." She lunged toward the prototype, moving faster than Harwood had thought possible. Bullets zinged past, striking dirt and metal, scattering debris. The mastermind stepped forward, weapon drawn, but Hale twisted, ducked, and rolled, keeping the counterkey safe. Harwood followed, heart racing. He could see the first operative stirring, groaning faintly, eyes fluttering open. Hale didn't look back. She reached the prototype, fingers flying over the interface, overriding protocols. The counterkey blinked green, stable. But then the mastermind fired. A shot rang out. Harwood's eyes widened as Hale yelped, stumbling to the side. Blood spattered the ground. "Commander!" Harwood shouted, lunging forward. Hale's hand shot up, steadying herself. She was alive, but the shock registered. She pressed the counterkey harder against the prototype, overriding the remaining safeguards. The device's light turned solid green. Harwood exhaled in relief, momentarily. But the mastermind wasn't finished. With terrifying speed, they lunged, weapon swinging. Hale twisted, narrowly avoiding the strike, countering with a sharp elbow. The mastermind staggered back but remained dangerous, relentless. "Sergeant," Hale hissed, eyes sharp, "cover me." Harwood moved instinctively, firing at the mastermind, forcing them backward. The clearing erupted into chaos, dust, gunfire, shadows moving like predators. Every second stretched, every heartbeat a countdown. Then suddenly the mastermind reached into a concealed pocket and produced a small, black device, the size of a phone. Harwood's stomach dropped. Another trigger, another failsafe. Hale's eyes widened. "Sergeant, step back, that's..." The device beeped, a low, menacing pulse. The prototype's blinking light flickered, then accelerated. Harwood's chest tightened. "No, it can't." Hale's jaw clenched. "It can, and it will if we don't act." The mastermind smirked beneath the visor. "One wrong step, Commander. One hesitation and everything disappears. Forever." Hale's eyes scanned the clearing. The first operative, the second operative, the debris, the tree line, the mastermind. They were all pieces on a board she had to master in seconds. She glanced at Harwood. "Sergeant, we have to separate them, divide and neutralize. You take the prototype. I'll handle the mastermind." Harwood swallowed hard. "And if I fail?" She gave him a brief, sharp look. "Then everything you fought for dies, and it won't be just the prototype. Lives, missions, operations erased." Harwood's pulse hammered. He nodded. "All right, let's do it." Hale exhaled, focusing. The mastermind lunged again. Hale twisted, ducked, rolled, and struck, forcing them to stumble backward. Bullets screamed past, dust rose, shadows danced. Every movement, every decision was life or death. Harwood lunged for the prototype, fingers gripping the counterkey. The device's blinking light stabilized in his hands. He could feel the weight of responsibility, the life-or-death stakes pressing down like a physical force. Then from the tree line, a faint sound, another shadow moving, faster than he had seen before. Hale's eyes narrowed. "Sergeant, we've got company, and this time it's not just them." The clearing erupted again, dust spiraling, bullets flashing, and Harwood realized with a sinking certainty, the mastermind was only the beginning. And as the sun blazed overhead, Hale and Harwood faced the impossible, one final deadly wave of enemies, the prototype in their hands, and the clock ticking down toward total annihilation. The clearing was chaos incarnate. Dust swirled in clouds that shimmered gold in the morning sun, mingling with smoke and debris. Bullets cut through the air, striking trees and metal with sharp, metallic echoes. Hale moved like a force of nature, counterkey clutched tightly, muscles coiled, eyes sharp and calculating. Harwood's heart thundered in his chest, adrenaline and fear colliding with every step. The mastermind stood at the edge of the tree line, their visor reflecting the sunlight in a deadly gleam. They didn't rush forward, they didn't have to. Every move Hale and Harwood made, every decision they wrestled with was being anticipated. It was a game of precision, of mental chess, and they were running out of time. Hale's gaze flicked to the prototype. The device in Harwood's hands blinked green, stable for now, but she knew better than anyone that stability was temporary. One misstep, one wrong calculation, and the Deadman's protocol would activate, erasing the intelligence, the missions, the lives tied to it forever. "Sergeant," Hale said, voice low and commanding, "we divide. You move the prototype to the extraction point. I'll draw their fire, do not hesitate." Harwood's pulse spiked. "And if I fail?" Hale's eyes locked on his. "Then everything dies, every mission, every life linked to this. Move fast, stay alive, and trust me." He swallowed hard, nodded. The weight of responsibility pressed down like a physical force, and yet Hale's unwavering calm gave him the clarity to act. He sprinted toward the extraction point, prototype cradled carefully, dust and debris spraying with every step. Behind him, Hale pivoted, moving toward the mastermind with terrifying precision. Bullets screamed past her, striking dirt, metal, trees, yet she advanced, every movement fluid, deadly. The mastermind fired back, every shot deliberate, meant to disrupt and intimidate, but Hale was a storm contained in a human form, moving with grace and lethal accuracy. Harwood's heart raced as he approached the extraction point. His focus was entirely on the blinking green device, the prototype, but he could feel the tension radiating from Hale behind him. The mastermind's shadowed form shifted, ducking behind cover, firing with surgical precision, trying to flank Hale, trying to seize the counterkey. Hale ducked a bullet, rolled low, and fired back. One shot struck a tree just inches from the mastermind's head. Dust exploded and the mastermind stumbled, but not enough to break their momentum. Hale pressed forward. She could see the glint of the visor, the faint reflection of a weapon aimed directly at her heart. "Sergeant," she shouted, "get to the extraction, move." Harwood sprinted, adrenaline surging, every muscle straining, every breath a battle. Behind him, he could hear the chaos, gunfire, commands shouted, the low hum of danger closing in. He glanced back just once. Hale was moving like a predator, every shot calculated, every step designed to keep the mastermind occupied. The clearing shook again, another wave of shadows emerging from the tree line. Reinforcements, more operatives. The mastermind had called them in and they were skilled, fast, deadly. Harwood's stomach twisted. "Extraction now," he muttered to himself, pushing forward. Hale was a hurricane of precision. She twisted, rolled, fired. The mastermind lunged, swinging a weapon, but Hale anticipated, dodged, and countered with a calculated strike that sent them stumbling back. Yet the mastermind recovered instantly, weapon raised again, eyes cold behind the visor. "Commander," Harwood yelled, the distance between them now only a few dozen feet. Hale didn't respond verbally. She was focused entirely on the mastermind, on drawing their attention, on keeping them busy while Harwood secured the prototype. Every second was precious, every heartbeat a countdown toward disaster. The mastermind fired again. Hale ducked, rolling low, and countered with a sharp, precise shot aimed to disable, not kill. Dust exploded around the mastermind, forcing them backward. Hale lunged, closing the distance, striking with brutal efficiency. Harwood's heart pounded. Extraction was just ahead, maybe 30 meters, but with every step the shadow of danger loomed. The new wave of operatives was advancing rapidly, trained, skilled, and aware of every inch of the clearing. Hale and the mastermind clashed in a deadly ballet. Every strike, every roll, every shot was measured. The sound of metal striking metal, bullets impacting dirt, dust rising in clouds. It was almost cinematic, surreal in its intensity. Yet there was a human cost. Hale's eyes were sharp, calculating, but the physical toll was visible. Grit in her jaw, sweat on her brow, muscles straining with every motion. One operative broke cover and aimed directly at Harwood. He dove instinctively, rolling behind a sandbag, firing back. The prototype, blinking green light, was steady, but every second it stayed in his hands was a miracle. Hale spun, delivering a precise kick to the mastermind's midsection, sending them sprawling backward. She pressed forward, aiming to finish the engagement, but the mastermind lunged for a concealed device strapped to their belt. Harwood's blood ran cold. "Counter key," Hale shouted, "protect it." Harwood's grip tightened. The device in his hands was life itself. He darted forward, rolling low, evading gunfire, ducking under debris, adrenaline surging. The extraction point was close, but the wave of operatives advancing threatened to overwhelm him at any moment. Behind him, Hale grappled with the mastermind. They struggled, rolling across the dust-choked ground, both skilled, both relentless. Harwood glanced over his shoulder. Hale's movements were precise, calculating, deadly, but he knew she was human. She could be injured, she could fall. Time was slipping away. The first operative, stabilized but weak, groaned faintly, reminding Harwood of the stakes. The second operative remained neutralized, but the network of danger extended further than he could see. Harwood reached the extraction point. A tactical vehicle waited, lights flashing, doors open. He didn't pause, he dove inside, prototype cradled tightly, heart hammering, eyes darting back toward the clearing. Hale was still locked in combat with the mastermind, shadows of bullets and dust surrounding them. The vehicle lurched forward, tires grinding against gravel. Harwood's hands trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. The blinking green light in his hands represented lives, missions, secrets. One wrong move and it would all vanish. Hale's voice cut through the chaos, calm and commanding even amidst the fight. "Sergeant, hold it steady. Don't let go, not now, not ever." Harwood nodded, jaw tight. The vehicle surged forward, dust trailing, bullets striking near the rear. He looked back. Hale had pinned the mastermind against the ground, but the shadows of reinforcements were closing in. Every second, every heartbeat was precious. And then the mastermind grinned. Despite the fight, the dust, the chaos, their eyes glinted behind the visor. "You think this is over," they hissed. "The prototype is yours for now, but it's only temporary. Others will come, and when they do..." Hale's gaze hardened. "Then we'll be ready, every time. We won't let it fall into the wrong hands." A sudden explosion erupted from the tree line. Bullets ricocheted. Dust and debris flew into the air, obscuring Hale from view. Harwood's chest tightened. "Commander," he shouted, gripping the prototype tighter. The vehicle lurched again, leaving the dust-filled chaos behind, but Hale's fate remained uncertain. Behind the smoke and shadows, the mastermind's laughter echoed. Harwood's stomach twisted. The prototype was safe for now. But Hale was still out there in the clearing, fighting the mastermind, and the war was far from over. And as the vehicle sped away, Harwood realized the impossible truth. The line between victory and total annihilation had never been thinner, and the final act was still to come. The dust had barely settled in the clearing, but Hale's eyes were already sharp, calculating, scanning every shadow, every movement. The mastermind crouched across from her, visor glinting in the morning sun, and despite the chaos, there was a chilling calmness about them. Every step, every breath seemed measured, deliberate, controlled. Hale's pulse hammered, but she didn't flinch. Not now, not ever. Harwood, inside the extraction vehicle, gripped the prototype with trembling hands. The blinking green light was steady, stable for now. His eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, straining to see the clearing disappearing behind him. Hale was still out there, still fighting, still alive somehow against impossible odds. Inside the vehicle, the hum of the engine and the crunch of gravel under tires was deafening in his ears. The prototype pulsed with a silent intensity, a reminder that if Hale fell, if one misstep occurred, everything would vanish. Every secret, every operation, every life connected to it, erased in an instant. But Hale was never one to fall. Back in the clearing, the mastermind finally moved. They lunged with precision, weapon aimed directly at Hale's heart, or at least that was their intention. Hale twisted, ducked, countered with an elbow to the side of the mastermind's torso. Sparks of impact flew. The ground beneath them erupted in dust. "You're good," the mastermind said, voice calm, almost impressed, "but not good enough." Hale's jaw tightened. "You miscalculated," she said. "Your arrogance will be your downfall." The mastermind smirked, lunged again, but Hale was faster. She twisted behind them, delivering a sharp, incapacitating strike. The mastermind stumbled, and Hale seized the moment, pressing the counter key against the device in their hands. Sparks of digital light flickered, red turning to green. The Deadman's protocol was neutralized. Hale exhaled sharply, muscles trembling from the effort. She had done it, but the cost was not yet clear. The mastermind, stunned but alive, glared at her with venomous intensity. "This isn't over," they hissed. "You may have won today, but others will come." Hale pressed the counter key tighter. "Then we'll be ready, every time." Inside the extraction vehicle, Harwood's radio crackled to life. Hale's voice, calm yet edged with exertion, reached him. "Sergeant, the prototype is secure. The mastermind is contained for now. Get ready for extraction." Relief surged through him, but it was tempered by exhaustion, adrenaline, and lingering fear. Hale had survived. The prototype was safe. But the battlefield had left its mark. Every second, every shot, every choice weighed heavily. As the vehicle sped toward the base, Harwood finally allowed himself to look back. Dust clouds rolled in the distance, shadows of chaos fading. Hale moved with a measured calm, securing the mastermind, checking the prototype, ensuring every safeguard was active. She was a commander, a soldier, a guardian, but above all, she was relentless. The first operative, stabilized but pale and trembling, was helped into the vehicle. Harwood glanced at him. "We made it," he said softly. The operative nodded weakly, barely able to speak. "Thanks for everything." Hale finally climbed into the vehicle, her eyes scanning the prototype, the mastermind, and the surrounding chaos one last time. Every muscle in her body screamed exhaustion, every thought a calculation, but she exuded control. Harwood exhaled, voice trembling. "Commander, I thought we might lose you." Hale's lips pressed into a thin line, eyes meeting his. "We don't get the luxury of fear, Sergeant, not in this line of work. Every mission, every second we move forward. That's all there is." The vehicle surged forward, leaving the clearing and chaos behind. Harwood felt the weight of what they had survived settle in his chest. The prototype blinked green, stable, secure. Hale sat across from him, eyes on the device, expression unreadable. For a long moment, silence filled the cabin. The hum of the engine was deafening in its stillness, punctuated by distant shouts and the fading echoes of chaos. Then Hale spoke, voice calm but carrying the weight of every second of battle. "Sergeant, today we made impossible choices, and we survived. But this is only the beginning. Whoever wanted this prototype, whoever orchestrated this, they won't stop. They never do." Harwood nodded, heart heavy but resolute. "Then we'll be ready, next time we finish it." Hale's eyes softened just slightly. "Next time, Sergeant, we make sure no one else has to risk their life like this." The vehicle reached the base. Extraction crews moved quickly, surrounding the vehicle, securing the prototype. Hale and Harwood stepped out, adrenaline still coursing through their veins, eyes scanning for threats even as safety loomed. The mastermind was escorted into secure containment. Their eyes met Hale's, and for a brief moment there was acknowledgement, a silent understanding that this game was far from over. Hale didn't flinch. She had won this battle, but the war for intelligence, control, and survival was ongoing. Inside the command center, Hale activated the prototype's final safeguards, ensuring every trace was encrypted, protected, and beyond the reach of anyone who might try to seize it. Harwood watched her, awe and respect mingling with exhaustion. "You did it," he said softly. Hale didn't respond immediately. Her eyes stayed on the prototype, scanning, calculating, verifying. Finally, she exhaled. "We did it," she said, voice calm but carrying the weight of their survival. "But remember this, Sergeant, survival isn't luck. It's calculation, preparation, courage, and sometimes sacrifice." Harwood nodded, understanding more in that moment than words could capture. The clearing, the chaos, the firefights, they were not just battles, they were tests. And today, Hale had passed with precision, bravery, and unyielding determination. The first operative was stabilized, debriefed, and escorted to safety. The second operative remained neutralized, contained, but the lessons learned from their actions would inform every mission moving forward. Hale and Harwood stepped outside the command center. The sun hung low in the sky, casting long shadows over the base. Dust settled, and for the first time in hours, they could breathe, at least a little. Harwood glanced at Hale. "Commander, what now?" Hale's gaze swept the horizon, unwavering. "Now," she said, voice calm, determined, "we prepare, because today was only one operation. Tomorrow someone else will come, and we will be ready." Harwood nodded, resolve hardening. He had witnessed leadership, courage, and calculated risk at the highest level. Hale wasn't just a commander, she was a force of nature, unyielding in the face of impossible odds. The sun set over the base, painting the dust and debris in gold and crimson. The prototype blinked steadily, green, secure, a symbol of their victory, but also a reminder of the fragile line between survival and annihilation. Hale placed a hand on Harwood's shoulder. "Sergeant, today we survived, and that's enough for now." Harwood nodded, heart heavy but resolute. "For now," he echoed. As night fell, Hale looked toward the horizon, eyes sharp, calculating, always watching. The battlefield had ended, but the war for intelligence, survival, and truth would continue. And in that quiet, almost serene moment, the full weight of what they had endured sank in. They had faced the impossible, navigated chaos, confronted a mastermind, and survived against staggering odds. Hale turned to Harwood, a faint, almost imperceptible smile tugging at her lips. "We did it, we survived, and we'll do it again, because that's what we do." Harwood exhaled, letting the tension drain slightly, but deep down he knew she was right. The line between life and death, victory and failure, was razor-thin, and with Hale at his side, he was ready for whatever came next. The night fell over the base, quiet but tense. The prototype was secure, the mastermind contained, and Hale and Harwood, two warriors, two leaders, stood ready, unbroken, unyielding, and prepared for the next impossible challenge. The war was far from over, but tonight at least they had survived.